As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping onto the NBA Finals court, Kurt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's a bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ilpsports.com today. That's the letters ilpsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight, we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight, we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats, football history and its memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises, and we're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. And I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 140-plus years of football history and memorabilia. And you can find us on the web at gridirongreatsmagazine.com. It's at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host. He's a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Larcher. He hails from Portland, Oregon. Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Good afternoon to you, Captain. It still cracks me up hearing, Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Largent. I guess if you have to pick something, it's like going to college and saying my minor was in Russian art. That's the equivalent of focusing on Steve Largent, I guess. So
That's good, Joe. That's good. Well, I get you. You have the best of both worlds. You have the modern day team, which you follow, and you have the memories of Steve Largent, and you have the research of Red Grange. So you're encompassing basically, 100+ years of football there, and that's great.
I'll admit, Bob, I wish that I'm envious of you East Coast guys who follow teams that are rooted in history. Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers. I just wish when I said Seattle Seahawks, we could touch the 100 best players. You know what I mean. It's just
I know.
Seattle Seahawks history starts in 1976. I mean, most of the football teams at that point were half a century old. So a little bit of jealousy of your Green Bay Packers.
Well, that's okay, and I really date myself because 1976 was the year I graduated high school, and I can remember us talking, the guys talking. I had a buddy of mine who had family in Tampa Bay, and he says, "I'm going to be a Bucks fan," and I said, "Why are you going to be a Bucks fan for?" He says, "Well, I got his uncle or aunt or whoever was down there, and grew up in North Branford, Connecticut, and basically was a Bucks fan his entire life, and still is. And he lives in Jacksonville now, and he shoots down and sees a Tampa game once a year at least. And if they ever play the Jags there, he goes see it because he says you could walk up to the gate the day of a game and get a ticket with no problem. He said you can walk in the parking lot there. People give them tickets, so it's pretty amazing. I feel bad for Jaguar fans, but whatever. It is what it is. But actually, we're setting the tone for
Bengals fan right now.
We're setting the tone right now of what we want to talk about before our special guest comes on. And I want to point out to our listeners, this is our actual 99th podcast that
Wayne
we've had.
The Wayne Gretzky of shows.
And our next podcast, which is going to be very special before the year ends out, will be our 100th podcast that we have recorded over the past 7 years. So it's pretty interesting, pretty historical at the same time. So we're going to fast forward in the future here, and we're going to talk a little bit about modern day rookie cards. And I had a reader write to me, and he said, basically, to summarize what he talked to me in his email, he said, "Bob, what's going on with rookie cards? Are they really worth the investment? Am I missing something here? Am I lost in the whole equation of why I would spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a modern day rookie card of, let's say, Tom Brady or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?" He says I need help. He says I'm lost on it. So I said, well, this is a pretty good topic for Joe and I to talk about. Anybody who knows me knows my feelings about I don't even know what's a good way of describing it. The feelings of modern day graded rookie cards that are going for literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm going to hand off to you right now, Joe. And what's your thoughts? What's your feeling? Tell me what's going on.
You rattled off three quarterbacks there: Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. And really, the conversation ends at that first quarterback. Tom Brady, because I can't think of an Aaron Rodgers rookie card other than his his 2005 Topps. And even that you can get in a PSA 10 for a couple $100. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is amazing, but Tom Brady has that allure. I mean, obviously 6 rings. He's broken, most records. First ballot Hall of Fame. He's up there with like Walter Payton, where, it's rumored that the person presenting for Walter Payton stood up and said, "Gentlemen, it's Walter Payton," and sat back down. That's all you need to say. Tom Brady is just that. Yeah. And you're talking about that. What is it? That playoff ticket contender card. Because even Tom Brady's SP rookie card in a PSA 10 will go for about $10,000 to $12,000. And I remember buying one, for a couple thousand, and then 3 years later selling it for $5,000 and thinking, oh, I just
Oh,
paid
my
off
Lord.
like a bandit. And
Wow.
they're numbered 1 to 1,000. There's only so many. Well, I guess people can create more PSA 10s, but that card's up in the 12,000. Like I said, the playoff contender card. There is one going right now, and I think it has a day left, and it's about $154,000. It's at $154,000 for a BGS. What is it? 8.5 or 9, I believe, Captain. And you and I were commenting, and it's like a 1935 Chickle Bronco Nagurski PSA 8.5, 1 of 1 with 1 higher, sold about 2 months ago for $174,000. Not including hammer. So here's a Tom Brady card that's nearly at the price of a Bronco Nagurski card. Are the Mount Rushmore of football cards. It baffles my mind. You and I don't do it. Yep.
It's bizarre. It's incredible.
Whoops. Sorry about that. We don't know. I mean, I don't collect modern stuff. I certainly, even back when I was, assembling PSA sets, I certainly wouldn't, plunk down that kind of cash for a modern card like that. That is, I don't know who's buying these cards, but it's pretty consistent. The sale of this card, this playoff card. So it's pretty fascinating. I don't know. I guess to each his own. When the rubber hits the road, all of us collect pictures of men in tights on cardboard. So, I mean, who am I to say, what's weird and what's not, really,
Right, exactly. I mean, I see a great demand from, I can see at a show a lot of young kids will ask a dealer, you got any Tom Brady cards, got any Aaron Rodgers cards, so on and so forth. And,
Yep.
Obviously they'll buy the lesser, the $1 and $2 and $3 cards that are available out there. And at the same time, I also see some young kids buying, Beckett graded 10s of those guys also. And,
Yep.
they'll pay the extra money and whatever. I have no idea how much they're going. Say that it's going for $20. They'll plunk a $20 bill down for one of his newer cards in a 10 holder.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just the way it is right now. But, again,
well,
the perceived scarcity of that first Brady rookie card, and in putting it in perspective, how many different rookie cards did he actually have? 20, 25? Who knows?
Keep going. Didn't we try and count that once? Because, I mean, and here we are, a couple old timers talking about modern cards. There is one Steve Largent rookie card. It's the undisputed. Right. There are. I mean, you can go. I mean, and then we've talked about the proliferation of just wax. I mean, there are probably 100 Tom Brady cards that came out the same year, and then I don't know how they decide or like how PSA decides. Nope, his SP card is going to be his rookie card, not the refractor, not the die cut, but the SP, and it's pretty fascinating. Yep. I don't know, but maybe 100. Let's say there's 100 cards that came out his rookie year, and one of them is a rookie card, and his rookie card's not even the most valuable. It's that playoff contender card.
Right. And it's a good point. Good point you bring about Rodgers, as far as his Topps card, being worth, let's say, a couple $100 or whatever. I have no idea what it is. I know he's got a police card in the police set. And, that really isn't driving any type of rarity value either, because there's thousands of police sets that were given out over the, course of every year in Wisconsin, and ultimately gets into the hands of collectors at the same time. So I just find it fascinating. I don't have a good answer one way or the other for the, whether or not you would want to buy it or not type of thing. I mean, I know a few stocks I'd rather put $150,000 than a Tom Brady rookie card. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, the market is radically different than what it used to be. So.
Well, think about this. We a long time ago, you and I talked about 6-figure football cards, and it's you could probably hold in two hands, what used to be the 6-figure football cards. a PSA 9 Jim Brown, a PSA 9 Joe Namath, a PSA 8 Nagurski. Boy, do you think a PSA 9 Bart Starr would fetch six figures? Not quite. I mean, if you think about the six-figure football cards, most of them are vintage, and then you've got this modern card, this one modern card, this Tom Brady card that beats all comers practically. I mean,
right.
It's pretty fascinating. What would an all-10 BGS player contender card go for? And I guess we'd have to look that up. And then what would it go now? It's just it makes me scratch my head that this card is worth more than a Nagurski card, which is what all of us hold up, as our golden child. So.
Yeah. And it's still, I still go back to a show I did, and I know I've said this story several times. It was late 1984, and a young guy comes up to me and he says, "Do you have any John Elway Topps cards, rookie cards?" And I had a couple, and I think the going rate at that time we were using for a superstar rookie was like $1 a card. And I vaguely remember I had a couple of them, so I told the guy, "Give me $1 each," and he says, "Well, if you got any more, I'll buy them from you." I said, "Yeah, you're hot on Elway." He said, "I'm hot on Elway and I'm hot on Marino. I think they're going to be driving the '84 Topps down the road." And as we know, hindsight is everything. But at the same time, he really had a good handle on seeing what he thought was great potential with two cards. Which to me, they did peak, and they're pretty normal now. I mean, you can find ungraded and graded cards reasonable if you want to put the stuff together. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not like you can't find them out there, and it's not like they're ultimately rare. But again, we put it in perspective of a Brady. I think Brady's had a better career than Elway and Marino, and therefore there is a greater demand and a greater desire to buy that card even at $150K plus. So it's truly amazing to me to say the least. But for my friend Bill out there who sent me the email, I don't have a good answer for you still, Bill, but I know you probably don't have that extra $150K laying around to buy that Brady card. But it is what it is, and I think we should, I think we were both in agreement saying collect what you like, and then it becomes a little more fun and a little less stressful too. So.
Well, and the other thing is we're used to seeing the most popular teams in America, your Packers, your Steelers, sadly the Raiders, Cowboys, and we're used to seeing those teams as being the high priced cards. Granted, the Patriots have been a juggernaut the last 2 decades practically, since 2001. So obviously there's a popularity there. You can't name another team that has racked that many Super Bowl victories in that span of time.
Yep.
Steelers, I guess, would come.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's a little bit to that. That Brady luster. How many more years does he have? And it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a gamble. When you're buying a card, a modern card, for that much money, it's definitely a gamble. How many uncut sheets are there of playoff contender that slipped out the back door that are sitting on someone's stack? So who knows?
Right. How many do you have? Couple.
Uncut
None.
sheets or playoff contender cards?
All right,
you're the
I think
host. How many Tom Brady cards do you have?
Probably like 3 or 4. And if a kid comes over the house, I normally give them one if they ask me. So it is what it is. All right, our special guest is here, and I'd like to introduce him and move on with our show. He is the president of Robert Edwards Auctions, and I'd like to introduce to the show tonight Mr. Brian Dwyer. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. How's it going?
Good.
I'm here too, Brian. I'm here too, Brian.
Hey, Joe.
And I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Good to talk to you as always.
I haven't seen you in a few. I think I saw you at the last national really briefly, and but I haven't talked to you for quite a while. So thanks for taking time out of your schedule to come on to the podcast tonight. And I want to lead off by asking, and if you could give our listeners some background about how you got involved in cards and how you got involved in auctions.
Sure. My story is similar to a lot of other people who are out there collecting cards, in that I got my first cards as a kid, and my parents, when I was 6 years old, bought me some cards and put me in my room, and it entertained me for days. And when they realized that worked, they continued to buy them for me. So it goes back to me being 6 years old and being fascinated with these cards and the players and the stats, and it kind of just stuck. And then when I got to be a teenager, I found eBay, and I was buying and selling and, feeding the habit like we all do, and it was fascinating to me, so I just kept doing it.
Nice. But you've been involved with the hobby for a long time. I mean, you were helping people put collections together, Brian. I mean, you were more than a collector for a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys both know me. I'm on the younger side of our hobby,
yeah.
I would say. And, I've been in it for over 20 years. I submitted my first cards to PSA in 1998. So
Wow.
I go
Wow.
back a long ways. I was helping people build collections. I was at shows. I grew up in the New York City area, so I had access to the National when it came to Atlantic City, and I had access to some shows in New York. And I've been around a while.
You've been doing it longer than I have, Brian. That's something I tip my hat to. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Bob mentioned you're president of REA. One of the top auction houses, in the nation. How did you come to be associated with REA? How did you come to become president? And what is your day-to-day role, your function at REA?
Yeah, so I got started in this business in 2007 full time, working for a grading company, and then I missed that buying and selling that I was doing, kind of just on the side, using eBay. And so I left the grading company, and I went and I started my own company, which Sterling Sports Auctions, which still exists now in Minnesota.
Yep.
And I did that for a year and a half when the Robert, who founded Robert Edward Auctions, called me and said, I see what you're doing, and I like what you're doing, and would you consider coming to work for us? And so I considered it to be the equivalent of, playing minor league baseball or Pop Warner football, and the Patriots or the Yankees calling and saying, come join our team. So that was 2012, and I sold Sterling, and I went to join REA, and I was in acquisitions for REA until 4 years later when the founder retired, and he said, you can work for the person that owns this, or you can own this, and that's how it all happened.
Wow. You're like a modern-day Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride.
Wow.
You are Robert Edward Auctions. So.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's a great place to work. We get to do cool things, and as far as my day-to-day, I mean, it's like running any business. It's overseeing every part of the business. Our primary goal is obviously getting material in and building these auctions that are 2,000 or 3,000 lots deep. That's a lot of networking with collectors, helping collectors, teaching collectors. It's a fun gig. No day is the same.
Wow.
Well, talking about the auction, can you? And I'll get a little off script here, but let's say you got a call from me, and I said, Brian, I got a 60+ year collection of football cards. None of them are graded. I've collected all my life. Would you be interested? Or I don't know what I'm doing with the collection. I don't know if I should just sell it outright. Do you think I could get, do better in an auction, so on and so forth? So tell us what goes into preparing an auction and how you obtain, the lots for them at the same time. And then when you're done with that, let us know how an auction actually closes, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners really don't understand the technical aspects of the auction. They just bid on it and pay for the item and then get the item, in the mail type of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get calls like you've described every day, calls, emails from people that have been doing this for decades and they don't know where to start. And so it's our job to make heads and tails of these lifelong collections. And we're good at it. We know the questions to ask. We know what we're looking for. We know what we specialize in and where we can do really well for people. So when somebody calls us up with a lifelong collection, we try and make it as easy as possible, find out what they have, find out their theme, find out how they built the collection. We deal with a lot of people that inherited things or found things, but we deal with our fair share of people who built these collections. So we just try and learn more about them, their situation, their goals. We're a teammate in the process, so we don't buy anything outright. We are the best equivalent is like we're a realtor for your sports collection, and we're taking on the collection, and we're trying to get you the most money, and you're coming to us because we have this network of buyers and we know what we're doing, and we're going to tell you what you need to do to make it more valuable, to make the most money possible. So we're predominantly educators for a lot of people when it comes to selling their collection. And then, you'd asked how do we get these cards? We have just an amazing mailing list that's been built for decades, and we do extensive advertising, and luckily people find us. Our reputation precedes us. We're very good at what we do. We sell a lot of stuff. We set a lot of records. So we're definitely out there finding the stuff, but a fair bit does come to us, which is very nice.
Okay. Like Bob mentioned, as an auction ends, where are you? I mean, what is command center, for one of the largest auction houses, in the nation, auction closing night?
Yeah, so our auctions run for about 2 to 3 weeks, and on that final night, which in our case is a Sunday, we're hunkered down in our office. We're in New Jersey. There's 10 of us that work an auction, and we are all on computers and on our phone lines and taking bids or watching bids or answering questions from bidders, answering questions from consigners. But we're lucky in that most everything takes place online, and we just get to sit back and watch. We're obviously there if we're needed, but it's not as hectic as it used to be when all the bids were written down on chalkboards and slips of paper and entered manually. It's a very automated process now, but it doesn't mean it doesn't get frenetic, and it doesn't mean that there's not excitement. But we close at midnight, so those last 15 minutes are kind of awesome to watch.
So I mean, it's all automated. The software. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, I was going to say is that a hard close at midnight? In other words, or is there like extended bidding? Because I know in some auctions have the extended bidding until 10 minutes after, so on and so forth. Do you guys actually just 12 midnight? That's it. Everything shuts down, or
so
is there another?
Our auction does not. Yeah, our auction does not continue past midnight. So at 6 p.m. Eastern, we do go into that extended bidding that you mentioned, where only people who have qualified can place bids on the items. So it narrows the pool, and then from 6 to 12, it's just those qualified bidders, and then it doesn't go past midnight.
Okay.
Obviously, the software handles a lot of the bids, so your emails are, the consigner reaching out to the person that they consigned to. I mean, it might be you or one of your salespeople or your consignment people. People calling in who aren't very technologically savvy, saying, "I'd like to place a bid on this." Or people calling in, it's like, "Hey, can you describe that card one more time to me?" That kind of stuff. Those are the calls and emails.
Absolutely. So yeah, on the final day, we're dealing with some nervous consigners. We're dealing with some buyers who want to make sure that they understand what they're bidding on, and if they're going to put that next bid in, that's going to cost them thousands of dollars. They want to make sure that they're getting what they think they're getting. And then, we have dozens of people who are so old school, they don't use computers. They place their bids over the phone. We have people who are traveling, who don't have access to computers that we're there for. But again, these days, most everybody has a phone, which means most everybody has the auction in their hand. So.
Wow. That's impressive. I can only imagine. I mean, the pizza getting delivered, the water bottles. It's like NASA landing on the moon. It, is how I visually think about REA war room on closing night.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, this last auction we ended on a Sunday. We had a TV set up in the middle of the room watching football. We've ended during the World Series before. So, we're definitely aware of the business at hand, but we do have some time to just sit back and watch things unfold.
That's awesome. Well, our next question, you'd mentioned you'd worked for a grading company. That grading company is SGC. I mean, I knew you back when you worked at SGC and you were in customer service, and you're one of the most amazing people at SGC, just cutting through the BS. You made that company. And obviously that customer relation carried over to Sterling and now to REA. So I mean, you've got a background in grading, not necessarily the grading, but in the grading companies. As you're aware, there's some trimming issues going on right now. Leaf cards, my beloved 48 leaf set. What does REA do, to watch out for for possibly trimmed cards? And are customers asking about that? Are consigners, are buyers? What's the thumb on the pulse, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, people are undoubtedly aware of what's going on. I think it's been going on long enough that the word has been spreading. We're certainly aware of it, and frankly, in my opinion, we've done more to combat that and try and eliminate issues before they make it to the auction than most other places, in my estimation. What do? We have a full-time staff member who used to be a senior grader at SGC. So somebody who I worked with, who was a grader at SGC for 15 years, when I took over, REA came and started to work with me. So this is a guy who was in the trenches for 15 years, who knows what to look for, and now he's looking at everything that comes through us. We also, I mean, you guys have both participated in the auction. I think that we sometimes call out disagreements. We don't take SGC, PSA, Beckett, whoever the case may be, we don't take these authenticators at their word if we feel like they're wrong. So we will say, in our opinion, we grade the card higher, we grade the card lower, we grade the card differently for X, Y, and Z reasons. And so we've had that history of disclosure where we're not just selling the cards. And then obviously we have, the tools of the trade that help us evaluate cards. And what people don't realize is how many cards don't make it to the auction because they haven't passed our internal controls. And so that's something that I think people never, ever consider, is that there's stuff that gets on the cutting room floor because it doesn't pass our muster. We're not out there publicizing it. We're not out there, but we are not putting it up for auction if we're not comfortable with it.
Tell us about that vetting process and what the conversation is like with the consignor. They send you 10 cards and you reply, hey, we think these 3 are trimmed, so we don't want to consign them. Or we're going to send them to another grading company for another look. I mean, how do you do that? What's that conversation like?
Yeah, so it takes on many forms, frankly. I mean, sometimes we will say, hey, we want to get a second opinion, mostly with autographs. We utilize multiple autograph authenticators, and if there's ever a disagreement, we disclose it. When it comes to cards, if we see something that we view as egregious and we view as, not right for the grade, we call up the consignor. Most of the time, they're appreciative. They're most of the time collectors who didn't think to look for something or didn't know that was a possibility. And so they appreciate that we bring it to their attention. And then where the card goes from there, sometimes it's sold with a disclosure in the auction. Sometimes it's returned so that they can get their money back. The conversations take many forms, often dictated by value, often dictated by the consignor's own opinion of the card. They don't always agree with us. It's just our opinion. but we try and make sure that what we're putting out there is not going to be problematic for anybody because they're spending real money on this stuff.
Absolutely, and you've got a reputation to uphold as well. You guys do. So.
Yep.
Has there ever been someone who like, there's 10 cards you can sign, we think 3 are bad, and the person said, to hell with you, give me all 10 back, something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, got to be some disagreements there.
Yeah, and we just have to make a business decision at that point, and nobody can tell us how to run our business, and so if we're not going to be comfortable doing something, we can agree to disagree, and we go from there. But we've been fortunate in that most people, when we point out what we're doing and we show them what we see, they generally agree with us and let us proceed with the disclosure. So.
Wow,
very cool.
That's amazing. Well, that's good business too, Brian. I mean, obviously, especially for people who are possibly uneducated on a piece or whatever, and they've inherited it. They're looking. You're the expert. They're the ones asking for your honest opinion, and you're giving it to them. So that's important. That's important in the hobby. And
we're in it for the long term.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who unfortunately, there's a lot of let me rephrase this. Unfortunately, there are several individuals who would just take it and just pass it over as fast as possible and be done with it. You know what I mean? So, and again, like you're saying, you're in for the long term, and you got to be honest. I mean, we wouldn't have this problem if we had honesty in the hobby. But we're looking at
the fact that you employ an ex-grader to check things over before they go to auction says a lot. That's pretty telling.
Yeah, we take it seriously. I mean, we're not perfect, but I think we do a far better job than other companies that provide the same type of service that we provide.
Absolutely.
Wow. Brian, you have any favorite story you'd like to share with our listeners about what possibly could be the most interesting item or items you've auctioned over the years? Whether it's one item, a group of items, whatever it may be.
We get to offer some incredible items. I always say I have the best collection in the world 3 times a year. I mean, a typical auction has cards worth big money, has memorabilia, bats, jerseys, autographs. I mean, presidential stuff we sell from time to time. Last auction we had a Jim Brown jersey just to keep with the football theme that was passed down through the family of the guy that used to do the laundry for the Cleveland Browns. And so they call us because they find us on the internet. And this jersey that's been passed down for 50 years, we sell for $75,000. And so that was a very cool call to say that, this thing that you've kept to remember your father actually has a lot of value.
That's pretty cool.
Wow. It's amazing.
By the way,
we've sold. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say we George Washington signatures. We've sold Harry Houdini's handcuffs. We've sold the shoes Muhammad Ali wore in the Rumble in the Jungle. We've had some very.
And by the way, you have a really good on-air persona too. I've like on your website, you've got, social media and in the news. We've got a couple clips here on CNBC and stuff, presenting, Wagner cards, et cetera. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we believe in getting the word out there. I mean, we're lucky, again, to have just phenomenal material that lends itself to publicity and, spreading the good word of the hobby and REA. But, I love anything I can do to bring attention to our hobby. I think it's good to get new blood in, and it's good to have positive stories, and anything I can do to do that, I'm going to do.
Well, Brian, brace for impact from this Gridiron Great podcast bump that you're about to get for being on.
We have our work prepared.
curious. You talked about some of the cool items that are coming. Obviously, we're very football centric on this show. What, other than like Steve Largent rookie cards and memorabilia, what football items are really hot right now? What are you out pounding the ground for?
Yeah, I mean the Largent market is just one we can't tame, but
Huge.
we are always
Huge.
looking. We're always looking for the big names. Like baseball has Ruth and Mantle and Cobb.
Yeah.
When it comes to football, Brady stuff is obviously very popular. Jim Brown's always a big name. The guys of the 80s, the Elway, the Marino, Jerry Rice, we sell their rookies in 10s for big money.
Yeah.
So, it's always going to be the stuff that people remember collecting that's going to resonate with them, and that's usually what drives these prices.
That was interesting. Joe and I were talking about before you came on the show. I had a reader email me and ask me what's going on with modern-day rookie cards, and in particular, he's looking at that Contenders Brady card for $150K plus. I'll throw it out to you. What's your opinion on that card? Is it worth it? Is it undervalued? Why is it a $150K card?
Well, I mean, it's a $150,000 card because somebody's willing to pay it, and that's really what it boils down to. I mean, I'm hesitant to call a $150,000 card undervalued. I'm personally not a huge proponent of advising people to spend big money on players who are still playing or who are still alive. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, they're not going to wake up and do anything tomorrow. That's already not baked into their price. But I also tell people to collect what they like. So if somebody likes the Brady card and likes the price, then God bless them. It's something for everybody.
Yeah, I'm really having a hard time getting rid of my O.J. Simpson collection lately. So
not for everybody.
So no, you're right. I mean, I think you nailed it, and a lot of people don't think about it. Somebody who's still playing, after their post-playing years, what they do can affect their value. I mean, Tom Brady is a huge hero right now, but I mean, we don't know what will happen afterwards. I mean, O.J. Simpson, Heisman winner, Rookie of the Year. I mean, just he's a stud, and he goes on to make amazing Oscar Academy Award-winning shows like Naked Gun, and and then he allegedly goes off and murders his wife. I mean, it's just you don't know what someone's going to do. Yeah, so that's pretty fascinating. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people tell me that they collect these pieces of memorabilia instead of putting the money into the market, the stock market, because they don't like the fact that somebody who they don't know has all this control, some CEO, some CFO can tank their investment. That's the same can be said for modern day players. You don't know these guys, and Brady's got a sterling reputation, but you just never know. So collect what you like, pay a price that you're comfortable with. But exactly. I think it's important to consider things like that.
Well, that's definitely true, and I would say now, guys toward their ends of their lives, guys who played in the 50s, in a lot of cases 60s, and some in the early 70s now, are passing, and there's some interesting pieces out there that you could pick up for players at their end of their lives, and who knows where they're going to go in the future. It's just a question of being educated about the player and knowing about the player, which is a whole nother story at the same time. So for example, when Jim Brown passes, I think his stuff is going to really go up even more, even though there's a lot of good stuff out there. You know what I mean? So
totally.
And it's the same with Bart Starr, just passed. That's it with his stuff. But he had a sterling reputation, and he was a class act from until the day he died. So it's that is good advice, though. That makes a lot of sense to me, what you said about that.
Hey, Brian, REA has this, reputation. I mean, you mentioned you used to do one, it used to be one, huge auction a year. And under your helm, You've made it 3 really good manageable auctions a year, but you threw it out there. It's 2,000 plus lots per auction. So I mean, RA's got this stigma of just being a huge auction house. What do you tell someone who comes to you with maybe some smaller stuff that is worried about their collection getting lost in the fray, lost in the crowd? How do you assure them that the spotlight's on it? I mean, you've mentioned you have a really huge Rolodex of people who are on your mailing list, et cetera. What do you tell people about that?
Yeah, I mean, we get this question a lot, and what we say to people is that for somebody that collects programs, or somebody who collects autographs, or somebody who collects figural pieces or jerseys, that's all they're going to focus on. And when the REA catalog comes out, if you're a program collector, you're going right to the programs, and you don't care if we've got a $100,000 Babe Ruth bat or a $200,000 Mickey Mantle rookie card. And so with a mailing list our size that has the diversity of collectors from all budgets, everything gets that proper spotlight. Because for some guy out there, your $300 card is his white whale, and he's going to be all over it when the auction comes. So, to a certain extent, you want to be in an auction that's got big dollar pieces. It's going to get the attention. It's going to have the proper marketing behind it. It's going to have the proper reach. There's a lot of guys who collect all sorts of things and might not look at another auction because they can't get that diversity that an REA auction offers. So we recommend being in the auction, and the high quality stuff's going to pull everything up. A rising tide's going to lift every boat that's in that auction. Good
point. How many catalogs do you ship for an auction, and how many active bidders are there roughly per auction? What's the population of that?
Yeah, we have nearly 10,000 catalogs that go out every auction. God. It's a massive expense, obviously. But then we have bidders that are tens of thousands deep. So we don't exactly reveal the exact numbers, but it's a big population of people who are looking at any given auction.
So obviously you've got registered bidders, and then you've got people who bid. I mean, and obviously a huge delta between them. So that's pretty fascinating. 10,000 catalogs. And you think about what it takes to gather all those consignments, catalog them, protect them, insure them, likely, take pictures of them, write descriptions of them, collate the catalog, print the catalog, package the catalog, and mail it. Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, and that just goes back to, what I was saying earlier. You want to be in the auction that has all this going for it. If we put the time and energy and resources into doing all of this, then you can be pretty confident that the results are going to be worth it. And I think people underestimate that. They assume that all auctions and all auction houses are created equal, and it's just not the case. So we're really proud of the job we do. We put a lot of money into it. It's a serious undertaking, and we think the results bear that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Wow. That 10,000 catalogs is an amazing number. Knowing what it's like doing our magazine, obviously nowhere near that, but at the same time, it's a lot of work, especially, depending on, in your case, getting everything ready and pictures and descriptions and the like. And I always like your description. And I think what's interesting, too, as much as people say we're turning to a paperless society, we really aren't. A lot of people really want an auction catalog. They want a printed magazine. They want something in hand. They're tired of just doing everything on the computer, and that's it. You know what I mean? So that's a good plus with your auction. So that is appreciated, to say the least.
Yeah,
Brian,
no, you're right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're totally right.
Yeah, because I have a lot of people. We have an older readership. I just put it very bluntly, and I'd be lying to tell you we lose probably 30, 40 readers every year because people die, people have dementia, they get Alzheimer's, and and they can't read the magazine. I get so many, so much correspondence from family members. It's sad after a while, just reading this stuff. Dad's in a nursing home now. He has dementia. He used to love your magazine. We got to cancel the subscription. Blah blah blah. And it's sad to hear. But again, paper is still in demand, whether anybody wants to believe it or not. Whether we're trying to go to this perfect, online type of media, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I enjoy the catalogs I get in the mail. I really do. I love looking at them. And you're looking at history. That's what it really comes down to. So it's I applaud you for doing that because that's very important. That's really important especially for an auction house. So I want to conclude, as we're getting close to the end of the show now, Brian. What advice would you give a beginning collector? And then secondly, are you collecting anything besides your 3 auctions a year, personally?
When I have time to collect, I like to collect baseball cards of Hall of Famers. So now what's catching my eye is tobacco cards of guys like Cobb and Walter Johnson and Christy Mathewson, guys like that. As far as advice for a beginning collector, I think first and foremost, it's collect what you like. This stuff is not a consumer staple. There's no guarantee that any of it will be worth more or less than what you paid for it. And so if you're going to collect it, you should enjoy it, and you should, buy from people who you like. You should buy things that you like. You should buy from trustworthy people. You should do research. Yeah. I think being an educated buyer is probably the best advice I could give somebody, and that means researching the piece, researching the buyer, researching the price, researching the seller, I mean. We just live in an age now where all the information is available to you, and you should take advantage of it.
Yeah. Good point.
That's
Brian, I have
very true.
One last question before we let you go. Who is your favorite band to see live and camp to?
I think in an ideal world, Dave Matthews on the banks of the Columbia River at the Gorge Amphitheater would be my go-to. But I would say, as far as camping, I would remember tent poles.
Oh, touche, my friend. Thank you.
Well, Brian,
that's good. Thank you, man.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. You're one busy guy. You got a great auction house there, and if anybody needs to contact you, your website is
RobertEdwardAuctions.com.
All right, and we'll also put in a plug that if any readers and listeners from the podcast here, well, they can say that they were listening to you on the show and they need some advice, and I'm sure you're going to help them with it. And I do appreciate your responses tonight because they were very interesting and very truthful. And I know I've known you for several years, although not truly personally, but I know you got a great reputation in the hobby, and I'm really happy to see where you are today because it's really needed in the hobby. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the job you guys do with the podcast and Bob with the magazine. I enjoy them when I get them, and I'm happy to have been on tonight.
Thanks for taking the time, Brian. Seriously.
Not a problem.
Brian Dwyer, President, REA Auctions, Robert Edwards Auctions. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Joe, this was very informative. I'm completely blown away by the amount of catalogs that they do, that they print.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've been printing on and off all my life, and just hearing 10,000, holy mackerel, that is an incredible figure. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it. Wow. I had no idea. I was actually curious about it because I'm always curious about how many. If you think about it, how many people have registered to bid? And like you said, there's people who fall out of the hobby. There's people who pass away. There's, all kinds of reasons why people, maybe have, a bidder ID with someone, but, stop bidding. And I've always wondered if, after 4 years of not bidding, if people, maybe after a year of inactivity, they stop getting a catalog. And I guess that would have been the question is, who gets a catalog? I mean, are they the people who bid in the last auction? Are they people who bid historically? Yeah, I mean, because, then at what point do you remove people's, profile? I mean, if they haven't bid, if they haven't logged into the last 6 auctions, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. What we traditionally do with the magazine, if, we don't hear back from the people after a year, they haven't renewed or whatever, and I'm basically every issue, I'll send a personal note with them or I'll send a letter out, time to renew. Has anything changed? And I would say probably at least 50-60% I get back, like I said, I get something back from the family or I get a phone call or I get an email saying, take so-and-so off, he's ill, he passed, or whatever the case might be. And, in our case, I mean, we're nowhere near that kind of circulation, obviously, but still, that is just an incredible amount of catalogs to get in. And I really don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's just a permanent bidder process. You're on for let's say 3 years, and after the 3rd year, if you haven't bid on anything, you're gone type of thing. You got to re-register or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I think each auction house is different, and I'm sure, it's very consuming, to say the least. It's very, you're doing a lot of work, of work with a small amount of people. So
just going over that, what it takes to gather, I mean, like, somebody mails you consignments. You've got to, put that in a bin. And I've seen something like it where they literally goes in a bin with a, with a lot number in it. Each lot number is cataloged, whose it is, their billing information. And then, a photographer comes along and takes pictures of it. Someone who knows the product has got to write up a description, or maybe they find a previous description in an auction and they cut and paste it. I mean, who knows, whatever it is, 2,000 lot items. I mean, if it takes you, 15 minutes to write up each item, I mean, you're looking at 500 hours.
Right.
It's a full-time job for someone just to write descriptions for lots. And then you've got to take the lot description with the picture, proof it, send it to the print. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. It's just, that's a lot of work,
Yeah. And I parallel to the magazine too. I mean, we're basically, it's Brenda and I and Jared doing the cover, and we're basically relying upon our writers who are so dedicated to the magazine to send us, these articles, and then we fix them up. We gotta lay it out. Brenda spends at least on an issue, if not more, a minimum of 40 hours between the layout, the design, proofing, so on and so forth. So it's basically 4 40-hour weeks a year just doing this. So just doing the magazine, not counting everything else we do. So it's a lot of work. I can only imagine with 2,000 lots in an auction. I mean, we're only doing a 48 to 52 page magazine. Doing a 400 page catalog, that's incredible. That's really amazing to me. But I still enjoy reading. I still enjoy auction catalogs. I enjoy getting them in the mail. I enjoy looking at them. Obviously, I don't follow the other sports with the exception, obviously, of football. But I'm always interested in whatever football may be there. And from a historical perspective, seeing stuff I may have never seen before, type of thing. So that's always cool to me at the same time. So it's a very interesting type of. Very interesting. I learned a lot tonight myself. So I'm going to hand off to you. We're in a 2-minute warning. Joe, what'd you pick up on tonight's show?
Just a great show. We touched a little bit on Brian's history, but I remember in SGC, and I literally, every submission I had went through Brian at SGC. He's that guy who would look over your order form, make sure everything was right, walk it back.
Yep.
I mean, oh my gosh, I remember getting text messages from him. Hey, your order's up. I mean, that is incredible customer service. You can't teach that to anyone. So Brian has just had that all his life, and good for him, because that definitely correlates over to what he does at REA. So yeah, just
exactly
good for him. And we've talked about REA before and their lack of customer service and frustration. I think at the Cleveland National, I tried to submit something and I spent half an hour trying to log into my defunct account and get this and filling out stuff for tickets and postcards, only to have them say they don't do tickets anymore. And it's like, well, how come they're on the drop down menu? Well, we haven't whittled that out of our system yet. It's just, I just walked away. It's just he offered that customer service that is certainly lacking now.
This is what I don't understand. You're basically in a multi-million-dollar business, and your customer service department and or customer service skills are not existent. I just don't get it. I don't understand. It seems like this hobby has that in a lot of cases, and it's so wrong. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But it is what it is. So we're going to be wrapping up our 99th show. We're down about 30 seconds. Joe, any final thoughts?
Looking forward to our 100th, Bob. I mean, it's like it's kind of whipped by. I'm just I'm very humbled to be your co-host, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
I can't believe how many years have passed. Just snap your fingers. It's just amazing. Just truly amazing. And I was going through some old papers real quick. I found the old Leatherheads network. I was co-host of a couple shows on that. I found my old scripts from that. I said, holy mackerel, I don't even know how many shows I did with them. It's amazing. But anyways, we're out of time. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in about a week with our 100th show. Thanks for listening. GridironGreatsMagazine.com. Good night.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.